We have a brief presentation this morning from Larson LLP. Hillary Patashner is here from that law firm, and her partner Stephen Larson may be on Zoom. I haven't been updated on that one yet. But Hillary?
Good morning. I'm Hillary Patashner. I'm a partner at Larson LLP. I'm here today on behalf of Judge Stephen Larson, who's currently engaged in a federal trial in Boston, as well as the rest of the Larson team that is working on this critical project. Today's update regarding our review of Riverside County's foster care and dependent adult programs will consist of three parts. One, a review of our scope of work where we are today. Two, a review of the elements of our forthcoming report. And three, details surrounding our access to court and county files. Before I start my presentation, I'd like to reiterate that I will not be offering any comments regarding conclusions or findings until our analysis and our report is complete. I would also like to note that our work cannot be completed without a full review of court and departmental records, which we're working to secure. First, let me start with our scope of work. Since launching this review, our team has constructed a comprehensive review process of Riverside County's foster care system, as well as the county's conservatorship program. Our review process has been designed to include an analysis of whether Riverside policies and protocols comply with state and federal regulations, a review of whether the current policies and protocols are being implemented as designed, a review of these policies and protocols in light of current best practices, and an analysis of the services rendered to the Turpin children in particular. To accomplish this, we assembled a team of subject matter experts to aid in our investigation. Included in our team are esteemed professors from UC Berkeley School of Social Welfare, the UC Berkeley School of Public Policy, the UCLA School of Public Affairs, and Virginia Tech's Department of Human Development and Family Science. Our team also includes other professionals with years of experience in social service delivery systems for at-risk children and adults. We have also worked closely with Riverside County's social service departments, the county's executive office, and county council. Judge Larson and our entire team are grateful for the county's steadfast cooperation in assisting us in conducting our investigation. The county's diligence has allowed Larson LLP to review over 2,600 programmatic documents and interview over 85 individuals with critical insight into the county's provision of necessary services to children and dependent adults in need. Specifically, due to the county's assistance, our findings will incorporate the lessons learned from these 85+ interviews, which have included 37 Children's Services Division employees who were either interviewed one-on-one or in the context of 6 separate focus groups, 8 representatives from external partners, including SAFE, Family Justice, CASA, and foster family agencies, 7 interviewees with experiences related to the county's self-sufficiency program, 11 staff members from Public Guardian, 4 individuals from Adult Services Division, 2 members of the District Attorney's Office, 1 attorney who is court-appointed in probate court, 2 doctors from UC Riverside School of Medicine's Elder Abuse Forensic Center, and, importantly, 2 Turpin siblings. With the information now at our disposal, we are confident that our report will contain highly relevant factual findings and critical policy recommendations that will advance the goals and purposes of the county's social services programs. Now I'd like to move on to the second part of my presentation, a review of the elements of our forthcoming report. The report will be organized as follows. An overview of the county's current foster care and adult conservatorship programs and services, the adequacy and distribution of the county's staffing and resources, opportunities in areas in need of improvement, recommendations and corrective action plans, and conclusions and key takeaways. The final report will incorporate our analysis of the county's protocols and policies, as well as the factual findings discovered through interviews of various county personnel and other stakeholders who have offered their time to help improve the provision of the county's child and conservatorship programs and services. Lastly, I'd like to discuss the third part of my presentation, the details surrounding our access to court and county files. As I pointed out at the beginning, our analysis cannot be complete without our review of court and departmental records. This is particularly true with respect to the care provided to the Turpin siblings. We at Larson LLP view these records as highly relevant to the development of our report and findings. However, because of numerous confidentiality protections and protective and sealing orders applicable to juvenile records, conservatorship court files, and the Turpin siblings' files in particular, Larson LLP has been required to make, and will continue to make, several court appearances before the Riverside County Superior Court in order to seek the release of these critical and pertinent case files. Throughout these hearings, we have appreciated the support that we have received from the county's executive office, county council, and the other county departments, as they have all concurred in our request for access to individual case records. The process to acquire these records nonetheless remains slow-moving, but we are making some progress. As you are likely already aware, the probate court recently ordered a portion of the adult Turpin Children's files to be unsealed. We are in the process of gaining access to those records. The probate court has also taken our request for access to the Turpin's complete probate files under submission, meaning that we do not need to continue to go to court to have hearings on this issue. We are hopeful that those records will soon be released by the Superior Court. Additionally, just last week, on Friday, the juvenile court granted our request for access to the Turpin court files under its jurisdiction. The complete court files are now in Larson LLP's possession, and we have started reviewing the critical records within. But we have more court hearings on the horizon. We have 2 court hearings scheduled for our requests for blanket orders authorizing the release of a random sample of both juvenile and probate files. These hearings are scheduled for April 6 and April 15. We are hopeful, particularly in light of the county's support of these requests, that the court will soon release these randomized records for our review. And lastly, again with respect to Turpin files in particular, a follow-up hearing has been set for April 22nd regarding our continued request for access to their special needs trust records that are maintained by the probate court. Larson LLP remains hopeful that, after navigating through the various confidentiality protections applicable to these records, the court will grant us prompt access to these files so that we are able to fully consider this critical information. These records are vital to ensure that Larson LLP's final report comprehensively addresses each area of inquiry, including the care and services provided to the Turpin's siblings. However, these ongoing court hearings have impacted our original timeline, and Larson LLP expects to submit its final report to the county on May 31st, 2022. Judge Larson and our investigative team thank the county for prioritizing transparency and access so that we have the benefit of the full picture in developing the findings and recommendations in the report. We appreciate the county's trust in Larson LLP and the autonomy that the county has given us to complete our investigation. I'm now happy to answer any questions that you may have, although I may be limited in the responses that I can provide due to our ongoing investigation, the applicable confidentiality laws at issue, and the protective orders currently in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the dais? Not at this time. I believe that. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Well, I know what I can't ask, and I know what you can't tell me. My experience in our ad hoc committee in closed session to try and get to the root of some of the challenges that we face was met with, I can't tell you that, Supervisor. I'm sorry, I can't disclose that, Supervisor. I can't tell you how it happened, Supervisor. It is the most frustrating experience I've had in my time on the Board of Supervisors is to be told you're responsible as an elected official to make sure all these things run smoothly and you have the right people in place, but you can't ask any questions about how they do their job or how effective they are or the problems they face. I've never experienced that before. It's brutal. I've outlined my own report. I concur with the report that our executive office has generated, but I added my own commentary to the frustrations that I experienced during this process and what our employees are experiencing out in the field with being grossly understaffed, grossly overworked, too many cases per employee, minimal supervision in the past, legal counsel erecting privacy walls, real or perceived, that employees dare not cross. It all leads to a really disconnected, and I'm being generous, a disconnected level of service to our children that need protection, and in some cases to the adults that need protection and services. We are asking employees to accomplish a mission that is almost impossible to accomplish under current state rules and regulations, where you cannot ask another agency within the same family to help you address a need of a child. One agency can't ask another agency to help because it's violating the privacy conflicts protections. I've never seen anything like that in my life. So until the judge grants your firm access to those files, it is my opinion that the five of us will never know the truth unless that judge grants you the access that you need to share with us the frank and unedited version of how things have gone. So I sincerely hope that that occurs, because if not, this gentleman here has the toughest job in the world to try and get everybody working and rowing in the right direction together with limited ability under state law to do so. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Supervisor Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will just add, all of Supervisor Jeffrey's comments notwithstanding, we are not an obstructionist here. Riverside County is with you in seeking the release of those important documents so that you can continue your analysis. And I think the public needs to know that because, right after we got a big splash with a public television show, now we're digging into the data. Likely there will be things that we learn if we get all of those documents where there's improvement needed. That would not surprise me. As Supervisor Jeffries just outlined, the serious burden that is placed on our social services system, and we are not unique as a county. This is very prevalent up and down the state and all across the nation. It's hard work. It's challenging work. It at times can break people. But we want to know not only the truth, but the full truth so that we can move forward with whatever improvements need to be made. But we are not obstructing any of this, as at times has been insinuated by some in the press. So thank you for your report.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Spiegel.
I certainly share the my colleagues' frustration and their disappointment. And there are things that our hands are totally tied on, which the lack of understanding why. You know, when we're held accountable for protecting, yet we can't protect if we don't know. When we find out bits and pieces and finding out some of it's true, some of it's not, just the unknown. Yet we still have the obligation to protect. I mean, we had somebody else earlier talking about a similar. The reality is that the things that we are trying to work around while we're waiting for your report, last meeting, Sarah came with 42 new positions in the services. That's great, but we aren't able to fill those positions. We increased the pay, trying to encourage people to come work. So it's not that we're not continuing to try, and Mr. Van Wagenen is trying to break down some of those walls to have the conversation between our agencies, as Supervisor Jeffries was explaining. If you can't talk and share, then how can we do better work on behalf of these folks? So there are things that we're trying to do in the meantime, not sitting back, because we all are frustrated. We all want to get down, and we want to be better. And even if we're just projecting from the outside, filling positions, creating more positions, creating communication tools that can come. You know, we're even talking about having to get legislation. So we're working with our legislators to say, okay, where's this law coming from? How is it make sense if you're doing it on behalf, and how can we change that? And so, as I said, that's another thing we're working on. So I want everybody to be assured we're not sitting up here just kind of waiting to make it happen. We're trying to do what we can do because we all take this very serious. We are all wanting to do what we can to move forward, and yet the courts, as you just heard, hold us up. You know, here you have a situation that we want to help you. We're here, we're committed to do what we can to help Larson LLP come to some answers for all of us. But if the courts hold it up, it's just this lack of understanding on how we've gotten to this point, and to be able to tear off those peels to say, okay, how do we get down to where we can really make a change? And what needs to be changed? We can do all these things, but if we don't know what the impetus is and what needs to happen, then we're kind of in a turmoil. And so I just hope that the public understands as immediate action as we can do is what we're going to do. And I think you have all 5 of us on board to make changes, to do what is necessary. But there is some impediments that we are having to face. But we're going to still do on the outside what we can do. Thank you.
Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. Thank you for your report, as well as appreciate the ad hoc committee coming together. And thank you for your write-up, Supervisor Jeffries. I think this tells us, regardless of the fact that we don't have the final report before us, we don't have your recommendations or all your findings, we know what we have to do already. We know that we need to do everything possible to coordinate care. We know that we need to have multidisciplinary teams. We know that we need to improve on our protocols and our service delivery systems. We know that our staff are overworked. We know that we have to go recruit and retain the staff that we actually still have, the good actors. And mind you, in any entity, any organization, in any department, in any county, whatever it's going to be, there's always going to be bad actors, there's always going to be bad apples. Doesn't matter where it is. But there are also good ones. And I would be willing to say that we got some good folk working for us within CPS. It's those that potentially are the bad actors that we need to remove. And quite frankly, in order for us to accomplish change, transformation, a culture of saying we're here to support and here to serve and here to help, We also need to dig deep inside ourselves when it comes to June and July and even a few months before that as we talk about the budget. And as we're trying to figure out how we're going to use that budget to ensure that we're able to improve our service delivery system and staff up. And that's what I'm going to be looking forward to when we get to that cycle, when we start talking about budget allocations. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you, and I want to reiterate a few notes that I took. You're saying you have hearings coming up on April 6th and 15th, right?
And 22nd.
And then on the 22nd, then there was May 23rd that you said there's another one. Was it May, in May that you said? Or was it May 31st?
May 31st is the date that we anticipate providing our final report
All right.
to the county.
Okay, so we've got some solid dates there. Look, I think that this board has rarely been this united on the fact that, we have to, we're all dedicated to this task at this point. And it all comes down eventually on our shoulders, and we have to get to the bottom of this. And so we appreciate your aggressiveness, but certainly don't let up on the gas pedal, so that we can't allow these things to happen again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any speakers on this? No, sir. With that, we have voted 5-0 to receive the report. Thank you.